Andy Gomarsall, welcome to the Task podcast. How are you doing this morning?
Very well, thank you. Yeah, good to see you.
Yeah, well, so, afternoon for me, morning for yourself. Whereabouts are you in the world at the moment?
Blessed to be in the New Forest. So my girls are at school in Salisbury, so we're south, just on the edge of the New Forest. So we're really lucky in, 4 months of lockdown to be able to walk across the road and be in the New Forest with ponies, cattle. I saw a massive pig yesterday, just lying in its lovely mud. Really blessed. So it's a beautiful part of the world.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's been a strange 6 months, but I think having, I speak to quite a lot of people in different countries, and certainly the connection to nature and being able to get back out there is helpful, I think, with everything that's happened. So
definitely. And it's cleaner air. That's been proved.
Yeah.
Walking around now, I'm still like, what are people doing driving? This is ridiculous. I mean, when lockdown was fully on, I mean, there was literally families walking and no one, driving, no one around. So yeah, clean air. It's been very, very, very nice.
Cool. Good to hear. Look, I mean, there's a few things I want to talk about: sustainability, SDGs, your business, the stuff you do, but obviously the rugby stuff, which I'm going to start with. You would probably not remember, but I think we shook hands about 17 years ago. We have a mutual friend, Dunk, who I haven't had a chance to thank you actually 17 years later, because I ended up in the after gig after the World Cup win back in Sydney in 2003. So, a good place to start, and a question in many different forms you've probably been asked, but, a huge event in your life, being part of that winning squad, coming back, meeting the Queen, all of that stuff. What was that like? What was it like as an experience, that team, that experience, and the impact on your life?
Quite simply life-changing. As soon as that final whistle went and we won, and the most dramatic of affairs, we were the favourites. It was seen that, we were playing the host nation in Sydney. It was going to be a difficult task, but I think we all believed as a squad and the management team that we could win it. We proved the year before, going to Australia, New Zealand, beating the best teams. We were confident, but the story and the narrative didn't pan out as simply as that. And there was plenty of roller coaster highs and lows within that 7 weeks of intensity and the highest pressure, especially in Australia, where they love to hate us, and it was pretty hostile and pretty abusive in a good, humorous way, right the way through the tournament. I remember them saying, "Is Johnny all you've got?" kind of thing. So it was the most amazing experience, but also when that final whistle, when I just went, this is life changing. This is going to change our lives forever. And what good could we be able to do with this? And didn't really expect anything from it once we got back to the UK, but it really did change our lives. And the kind of power of that moment is wonderful. We had a 10-year anniversary, and all these anniversaries getting back together. You really see as life goes on, how blessed and lucky we were. And what a great connection. We don't have to be best mates, we don't have to be online all the time, but that powerful connection that we'll always have, which will sort of almost grow stronger as life goes on. And just great celebrations, and forever. As a player, being a World Cup winner, it does change your life, and then life after. Absolutely, the power of that is the parallels to business are insane. So it was great, just amazing. And what it did for me personally was carry me through the next 4 years. Again, my career didn't exactly go according to plan, lots of roller coaster events, but playing in that World Cup final in 2007, 4 years later, was kind of testament to what Clive had done, 4 years earlier. We kind of crawled and got there, kicking and screaming. Yes, we didn't win it, but it is literally, as England found just recently in Japan, it can be the bounce of the ball or the tactic or, something very, very small that is the difference between winning and losing. England only won it in 2003 with the last kick of the game, in extra time. That wasn't, didn't go according to plan, but we obviously trained and practiced all these situations. So yeah, in one simple answer, life-changing.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, what a game. I mean, it went for a ridiculous amount of time, and of course, doing it away from home, and there's just so many elements to it that were fantastic in many ways. Just on in terms of the leadership, and I'm sure you're in contact with different people, but that leadership kind of that leadership umbrella and that role of Johnson and Woodward. What speaking to that for a minute and lessons from that, I imagine it was pretty inspiring. I mean, I see it as an outsider like that. Maybe it's different from within, but that leadership model seemed to be highly effective. Quite different personalities that led that team as a captain and a coach. Anything to say on that, or what it was like, and how you perceive that and the experiences of that?
Yeah, I mean, you used the word inspiring. That when you're in the camp, we still get inspired by actions, words, by individuals within a team. So these guys are inspiring. That when you're in a room and everyone's deathly quiet, listening to the words that are coming out from whether it was Clive, Jono, but also just to add to that is that these guys will be the first to say, crikey, I had a good group around me. And there's various tiers of hierarchy of positions as well as leadership. So, there were different kind of, if you looked at it, there were different circles going round of people who had their roles and responsibilities, and they had their kind of leadership. Some were, small, but some were very, very large. Not one person can kind of lead all the way through 7 weeks, and you think of the preparation before that. It takes a lot. And then people forget, actually, Lawrence was captain before Jono was. Jono got the Lions, and a blip in Lawrence's career meant that Jono took over the captaincy. So, he took it on, and incredible man. So, meticulous in sort of his way of leading, and it was by example and action rather than too many words, but also so analytical. He loved the game of he loves the game of American football. So weirdly, some of the forwards get a bad rap for just being just trudge it up and carry, and but actually Jono loved the tactics as well as the overall. He let other people lead that, but also he had a big interest in it. But he knew what he could bring to the table, which was and there were so many players in that squad that could do it. But it was you're never going to win a World Cup without physicality and brute strength. And we had an incredible pack of forwards. It's the back's determined by how much, but mainly the forwards determine that you're going to win the game. So yeah, we had great leaders, and they were inspiring, absolutely, but also as an element of not leaving a stone unturned. Whether Jono agreed with Clive on some of the things that we were doing, other people jumped on board with it and carried it on. Jono didn't stop it. There were stuff left field coming in, but he just, between them, they kind of respected and allowed things to happen. But actually, what Clive did was respect on the field, that there was plenty of good leaders in there. They knew how to play the game and let them get on with it, let them crack on.
Yeah, I think, I mean, that I remember seeing Johnson talk about the fact he doesn't like to talk unless he really needs to, which is a great quality in itself, right? So
yeah, I mean, I'd love it when I was in the huddle with him and the changing room, and there were so many people talking. So you'd warmed up, and you were sat in this changing room before you actually physically got into the huddle. And there's lots of talking, they're almost ticking the boxes, do this, do that, and we'll win the game. Do this, do that, we'll win the game, from various voices and leaders from the coaching staff. And, literally get in the huddle, and you are nervous. There's an incredible amount of anticipation. Adrenaline is absolutely blowing through you. And, you just need a calm head at that point. And Johnny would just say, forget all that. Let's absolutely just smash into them. First whistle, that's all I care about right now. And it kind of just brought you back to what the core principles of a physical sport. Get that bit right, then use your brain, kind of thing. And he was pretty much right most of the time.
Yeah, right. Cool. Look, to go off rugby for a bit and talk about business, obviously, 12 years rugby, 12 years in business. Is that roughly right? I had to look up afterwards.
16, yeah. I mean, 16 years when you think
it?
about it. I mean, 12 years of professional sport, but 16 years, I left school straight into Wasps.
You were right at the beginning of the professional era, right? You went into it.
Literally, I was second year student, I think I was, second or third year student at Oxford Brookes University. And, sat down with Wasps and they said, here's a contract, do you want to sign it? And I was like, before he'd finished the sentence, I'd signed it.
Yeah.
So it was incredible to be able to you're thinking about your future life and what job you're going to do and what industry you're going to go into. But suddenly it's, am I doing a dual thing here, or I've got a contract here? I mean, it was so secure for us as players. It's a lot stepping into the unknown, but amazing to be the start of the journey. I never feel sorry for anyone, but if I was to feel sorry for athletes that had gone before me, is that they never got to play professional rugby, right? They stopped at a time when they never got paid, and they did it for the love of, and I hope that we carried it through and gave them the respect, but also carried on the traditions of rugby through the amateur, what we'd learned, to the professional. And I still think there's an element of amateur in the professionals now, which is a good thing, because being fully professional is tough, and there needs to be a bit of humour and an old camaraderie needed within rugby to really get the guys winning and over the final hurdle. So I hope that we continue that sort of amateur ethos into a very, very now. I mean, it's so professional now. It's ridiculous.
I mean, it's changed. Yeah. What's it been? 20 years, I suppose. Maybe longer. I don't know. But it's no longer than 20 years.
96, yeah.
Yeah,
96.
yeah. But it's a very different game now. But I think, the core of it is still there.
Yeah.
So you came out and you're obviously, you were involved in rugby on and off commentating and still are, I'm sure, in many ways. But, when was the move to N2S, which is family business, right? The business now. So you've been in there 10 years.
Yeah. I was one of the players that was intrigued by the outside world. We were absolutely cocooned. So I was always intrigued, and I'm very lucky to have a father that he didn't share too much with me, but he's been an unbelievable mentor to me through the process of professional sport. You're a young kid dealing with these kind of pressures, when senior guys, that some were involved in business, but some were just teachers or had always been coaches, and dealing with that was really difficult. I always joke sometimes you were managing the manager kind of thing, and learning off experienced businessmen like my dad and other people that were in his circle. And I just became intrigued in business. So I started early. I was always writing business plans, pretty shoddy ones, but I was always writing business plans. I was looking at rugby specifically and going, there's a hole here. What if the club did this? So I was always writing, and I've still kept them today to have a laugh at them, latterly in life. But I was always intrigued, interested. I thought I was going to be a coach because that's all you kind of know. Yes, I did a degree and studied, but also, that's what I was interested in. I mean, I lived, breathed it, talked about it till I fell asleep. And it's difficult to then picture something else. So always intrigued. Got involved with a couple of people, startups. So when I was at Quins, I stood up in front of 200 angel investors and did a pitch into something that I had no clue about, no idea, but just spoke passionately about the sport that I was involved in and what the company was trying to do. And we got investment. And that was huge. That matured me beyond belief. Sat on, I was on a board, still playing. I was in my early 30s. You think I should be experienced, but I'm like a 17-year-old at this time. Sat in a board meeting, listening to these. And what it did is when I went back to Quins, it suddenly made me even more professional than I thought I was, and more mature. Strangely enough, and so I really became intrigued. First lesson from that was, yes, it was a startup. Most of them fail, and this one did. Ran out of cash. So first lesson, cash is king. Second lesson was getting to bed with the right people, people you trust, people you like, people you respect, because business, like sport, no plan survives that first contact with the enemy, and you need people that react well, positively, and get up and get go, and do good. So that was a massive two massive lessons before, and it didn't hurt or cost me, because I was still playing. And so I learned this. So then when my dad said, look, what you're doing, and what, it's an easy transition for you to join my company, and help me. And he had a partner at the time, and they welcomed me both in. So I started to consult, understand the business. And the first week I walked into a meeting with Jack, my old man, and it was with a very, very large service provider in the UK. And I knew the chairman from, weirdly enough, it wasn't to do with rugby, but I knew the chairman. And we sat down. I just said, look, I'm new to this. This is, I've got my dad here to explain it, but what about it? And he went, good timing. You got a contract. And my old man came out of this meeting and went, oh my God. He said, I would have taken me 10 years to get to that guy, and then sort of 10 years to work on the plan. And then eventually I'll get a contract. You've done it in literally 5 minutes. And I was like, yeah, well, that's easy, isn't it? And he was like, no. So he immediately said, right, you're on board, let's go. So I'd sort of passed the test straight away. And, I thought I would have kind of nailed it in 5 years. That was the plan, take on the world, boil the ocean. What I learned very quickly is business is not the quickest in terms of speed of change. And, in sport, if you don't quickly maneuver, you will get hurt and you will lose. And suddenly you're out of the picture. You're out of the sort of top, you're out of the FTSE 250. You're gone, right? I mean, it's brutal. And so I found business really slow, and I got really frustrated with it, really slow. And to the point where I'd have meetings with, certainly, that was a lucky one, my first contract. But I'd sit there and I'd say, look, we've had 10 coffees and I've done nothing. There's been no purchase order, no invoicing, nothing. I've had 10, and I'm really enjoying these 10 coffees with you. But what is the blocker? Why are we not engaging? We're all buying signals here. Like, what is the... And I just couldn't. So I become a bit frustrated and got better at it, and just a bit more patient, which I didn't think I could be. Patience.
It's really interesting. You're answering my question actually, but it's around this kind of parallel between, I'd kind of written down that, the parallels between rugby and then the good and the bad. I mean, I imagine there were some great things you took from rugby. I mean, it sounds like being able to probably walking in with no prior kind of legacy sometimes is really handy, right? People have baggage in terms of, you've been in business. I mean, your old man's been in business years. He will have preconceived ideas of how things work. You didn't have any of that. So would make things a lot easier, but also massively challenging in other situations where you want shit done. So, and
unfortunately, being a scrum half, I was pretty open-mouthed and gobby. So I would sort of say, what you do that, and then you pass it to them, and then they pass it to, and that's crazy. And they go, oh, hold on, Andrew. I'm like, well, it's just, that's speaking from the heart. I mean, what are you doing? And they go, wow, okay. So you crack on and do something about it. And I'm like, I will, thank you very much. So I think, it swings and roundabouts with that, but you just have to be very careful and be respectful of the way people, have done it. And I'm now the quickest to say, in an opportunity and a lead, they'll tell me how they're doing, and I'm going, brilliant. I can't help you. No worries. Thanks for your time. I cannot help. You've got it sewn up and perfect. That's very rare, but I'm quite open and honest about those kind of scenarios. But I mean, sport, on the speed stuff, sport has a lot to offer. I was always, God, business. I want to learn more about business to help me in sport, and now I'm flipping the other way. I'd run away from sport. But actually the parallels in sport to business are key. And COVID, what happened with us recently, that was a great sporting analogy for me to flip the business very, very quickly and not be scared of that. That was an easy decision. I made it in an instant, communicated that to the team, And the team reacted really well and just went, right, this is the new plan, off we go. And I'd spent 6 months, planning for 2020.
Yeah.
And, I just went, rip, that's over. What's the next? And that's what you have to do live in a sporting fixture. Your half time, rip that plan up, we go to plan B, and this is how we're going to execute it. You have to.
This is, it's very similar. You talked about pitching earlier. I can see, you would have thrived in the startup space, but it's the same. I think everyone feels like a startup this year because of that reason. We're 2 years in, and same thing. For us, it's not been challenging as I imagine it has been for businesses that are entrenched in a go-to-market process and everything else, because we're consistently doing that for the first 18 months of the business anyway, testing, understanding. So certainly those kind of strengths would have been useful. What does that look like in terms of when you ripped up the plan, what has changed? I'm assuming, I've looked at your business and, understand it from a glance at the website, and know you guys have a real environmental focus and, in the environmental space around hardware, computer hardware, everything else. But in terms of how that's changed the business coming to this year, what has happened? Has it been a complete kind of upheaval? Has it been a just focus on the areas that will work because of the changes, or what?
No, it's a big change, but the way I saw it was massive delay, 6-month delay. So whatever you'd planned and forecast shifted by 6 months. And it might be, I always go 6+3, if I'm honest, but I think it will be 6 months because we're starting to come back. So all the things that were delayed, because we're physical, we're people, logistics, ultimately the door was closed and people weren't, they're on furlough. There is no business there. There is no physical handling of product. And by the way, then there's no kind of refresh of product because there's not enough product to feed the work from home scenario and the change in the business environment. So, doors weren't open, and, there's too much, there's not enough kit, and then suddenly there's too much kit. So all it's done for us is delay everything we've done for 6 months, but spend the time of this 4 months that we've been properly in quarantine, is that, planning for the future, winning business for the future. So expanding upon that. So, but also backfilling those orders that you had with something, very, very quickly. And we did. We did 2 records in the company, 2 record revenue months. Everything's about profit. They weren't exactly amazing profitable months, fair enough, and the furlough scheme helps. But you've still got to pay that in the future moving forward, certainly rent and rates, and there's just a delay on that. So we kept the business spinning, we kept transactions, cash coming into the business, and that was extremely important. But also it tested the robustness of, we're a small agile business, we can do these things, whereas some of our partners in the IT world are big, cumbersome. One vendor always describes we're a big tanker and we take ages to turn, and I want to scream at that comment. That really, I understand it, I really do. But, I think moving forward, because of COVID and the fact that change is going to be so easy to just happen overnight, and you have to react quickly but have contingencies in place. Everyone's contingency was weak, whether you had a disaster recovery element to it. Some of the environments were like from the 2000s. Nobody had refreshed, updated, and you've got somebody who normally uses 6 screens, you turn up and they've got a 15-inch monitor, which is like prehistoric. Nobody had really thought this would happen and planned and invested. Now that they're going to have a hybrid of, anything, the alarms go off like the war and back, we're back into, that's going to happen. And so investment will be easy to come by in that regard. So we've kind of flipped in that kind of agile workspace, workplace environment. So I think there's going to be a hybrid for every employee of partly working from home, partly going into the office for the right reasons, and then you're sort of on the go, communication. So there's kind of 3 areas of people's work. It's on the go, at home, and at a fixed site. and what does that look like for the technology? And I always think coffee shops are the way to go anyway. So people's environment, the Google and the different kind of workspaces that I go and visit and I see, I don't need fixed in London. I just use the various, whether it's a restaurant or a coffee shop. The technology cancels out anything, and you can work from anywhere. There's Wi-Fi and 4G, the future of 5G. I mean, you can just work from anywhere now. So it's dramatically changed what we're offering, but it's still the same foundation of physical removal, physical installation, physical removal. So logistics, people, engineers, and then what am I doing with it? I'm either reusing it for a second life, or I'm recycling it and putting it back into the circular economy. That's never going to go away. In fact, it's growing. The e-waste situation and problem is growing year on year at a quite frightening rate. Yes, there's so many more companies doing it, and we've still got a major issue and problem. And so what I'm trying to do is educate, champion the problem, educate, and then do something about it as well.
Yeah, I saw I was reading an article about Apple's. I don't even know what the latest Apple phone is, 12 that's coming out. But yeah. How I don't know whether it was. I kind of briefed over it yesterday, but it looked like they're going to release it finally without a cable. Interestingly, to cost save, but you've got to say this is the irony of sustainability in many cases. It's better for the planet, but it nearly always saves money for the business. I mean, this is the kind of, and this has gone on for many years. I mean, I've seen so many cases of this where big companies have changed their strategy around production because they realize the consumer doesn't necessarily need it. They end up being able to tell a much better story for the environment, and they actually save money. I mean, you must see this a lot, I assume, with the stuff you do.
Listen, the circular economy is not just about the environment and sustainability. It's actually about the economics. It has to, genuinely has to make all of those senses and work. So, I'm a big fan of it. Once I saw it and heard about it, I was like, this is pretty straightforward and common sense. Why isn't everyone doing it? But it's just a bit similar in the food industry and how we are sort of marketed to and influenced to eat. I think back to my career and what I was influenced to eat because of the physical size I needed to be and the training that I used to do. And quite frankly, it was wrong in so many stages. And I look at the backdrop into the food industry and it's, companies, large corporates and government are swaying how we buy and eat. And I'm like, it's exactly the same in technology to a certain degree. So I'm a massive fan of customers, so end user clients that have a sustainability agenda. And then secondly, the vendors, the manufacturers that are providing that, what are they doing to be more sustainable? And some of the companies are doing, there's loads of holes in it, but you think of Apple. I use Apple because it's, from a consumer point of view, most people know about Apple. They are 100% renewable, which is incredible. You think of Microsoft, everyone knows Microsoft in terms of they're on the platforms and the software that they use, and their 10-year promise, which is to get to carbon negative, which is insane, and how they calculate it and how they're going to get to that. I believe they will. So that noise from those two companies is actually changing everyone else that manufactures and sells. And if you're not on it, I've made this public. If you're not on it in the next 10 years, I feel that customers will social impact as well as the environmental sustainable way of using IT, that is dramatically going to change. And as a percentage, it's not just always going to be about cost. It still will be about cost, but it's not, the percentage decision making on these big, transformations will be made around sustainability. And if you're not providing it, you're not doing it, you not have a goal plan, you're not challenging yourself annually, whether you're selling it, consuming it, manufacturing it, then your business will go.
Yeah, I don't know how you think about this, but for me, I think this year is just such a, pivoting year in general. I feel that we're going to look back in 10 years at this year because it's been massively disruptive, and there's no hiding from the fact that, you know, a lot of what's happened is down to the way we, you know, our relationship with the planet and stuff. And, you know, I think it's hard. I mean, you're, you know, in a director role within a business, and there's clearly been impact, and you're clearly a optimistic kind of character. But, you know, what do you see that, and do you see that there are some kind of silver linings of what will come out of this in, you know, next year and beyond, in the way some companies and more companies, you know, their kind of social contracts that they have, and, you know, how they deal with these types of policies, and how they move forward, and how they're perceived by consumers?
Yeah, and just in the micro, you know, you mentioned this is the year of change, but actually in the macro, and it's a small macro, it's the next decade. So this is the start of the next decade, 2020 to 2030, and this is the year that we dramatically need to change climate change for the positive. And technology will play a massive role in that, but not necessarily the usage. It's not really coming from companies like myself, you know, providing the metrics and how we're saving the planet. That's a very, very small part of it. I mean, data's going through the roof, as we know now, working from home. You know, people on furlough were watching Netflix more and more. So data centers did are doing well. And I use the terminology of server farms. They are farmyards, and people are building millions and millions of square footage of real estate to cope with the demand. The technology will get better, but they still need the environment and size, and that has a negative impact. There are cooling ways in terms of the geographics in the world of where to cool the best equipment and data, but there are others burning a hole in the ozone. But it's still a small, compared to the food industry, agriculture, it's still a very small part, but we're in control of it, and we can do something that is obviously beneficial and more sustainable. So there's an element of context, but also, like you said, 2020 micro, biggest change, and it's woken, you know, people's eyes. You know, 2010 to 2020 was this fourth industrial revolution around technology and how it's affecting our children and growing up, and also us as human beings on this planet. That's changed now. 2020 to 2030 is the sustainability age of, you know, how are we doing things in the long-term view, you know, because it was ignored in the last decade. It really genuinely was. There was the Paris Climate Agreement. What's happened since then? Not a lot. And so this is the decade of change, and COVID has hit that hard, and shown, you know, just how dramatic. Pictures around the world of just from pollution point of view was huge. You could see parts of the biggest, London, in China, just the dramatic impact that people's travel has made, and even to the flight path. So I saw one picture of the flight path of a day around the UK, and I thought, God, that's busy. And that was now. And then it went to the picture of what it was like, and it was just like, oh my, you couldn't even see a picture of the UK. It was just how intense the flights were. So I think that's had a massive impact, and technology's been part of the way that we've been able to cope and communicate. And so technology's got a big, fourth industrial revolution to now the sustainability, how are we helping our climate? And that's what's exciting. I'm really excited about that. Yes, it's selfishly, it fits very, the narrative fits exceptionally well into my current business. But actually, I was always trying to do that anyway. And what was hard for me was, when you're a rugby player and you're playing for England, everyone wants to know you and talk to you. And then when I was pitching sustainability in the last decade, no one gave a monkeys. No one wanted to talk to you about it. It's like, whatever. Now, suddenly the door is ajar, and now I'm trying to smash it open for people to really take it on board. And we're winning business because of it. I genuinely think that, and we've got a job to do to support our customers now to prove it, because it's all great and well, what a great story, and thank you, and the employee base are really happy about it, but prove it. And
yeah,
that's
right.
I wanted to build a business around that we could absolutely have the metrics to prove it. So it's really exciting, and we're not even talking about the next generation of technology in terms of RPA, robotic process automation, and artificial intelligence. I'm not even on that yet. Or people are, and there's tons of startups. I'm not even there yet. I'm just concentrating on what we can do for the environment.
Yeah, and on that, probably a good segue on that, on that measurement proof aspect, and, on your site, and I've seen you talk about the goals and post about them and stuff. We're on a bit of, as a business, we're on, I think, on a learning curve with them, because we're trying to work out, we have technology that's all about transparency, measurement, reporting. And I've had experience in the past with, different indicators, GRI, CDP, and we've decided, the goals, they have some kind of marketing element to them that's great. As in, if I went and said GRI in the pub, and it's like, people, what you're talking about, if I went and said sustainability, UN SDGs in the right pub with a few millennials around having a beer, people would actually know what they mean. I think that element to them is great. What's your, you're clearly, as a business, aligning to them, using them, how do you use them? How do you see them? Do you think, is the measurement part what's key? And, what's your kind of view on the SDG model and how it can kind of move
first
forward?
and foremost, thank goodness that the UN did something in 17 sustainable development goals, one of them being kind of partnerships with global businesses and partnerships in business to drive change. I think that's a real critical one, companies working together, but also companies, kind of business working into government as well. I think that's really important, because government get a bad rap and they're trying, but actually, what business is trying to help without, it sort of directly benefiting them, though, because you can't win, can you, when it comes to advising government. But thank goodness, thank goodness for the SDGs as a sort of pointer, as a start, and as a business, we've got a job to do to find out how we're supporting the SDGs. We're very clear in the 4. One is the partnership, but the 3 others, we're very clear around the technology and what we're doing around the water and the positive consumption and production of technology. So we're very clear on that. But what I love about the SDGs is, as a framework to look at, to start with, different companies will have different agendas, and they can just pick. You're not asked to support 17. That would be amazing if you could, but it's not realistic. And what's great as well is it's given now companies, as part of a board, if you're a publicly listed business, on your board should be a sustainability lead. I'd seen one of the big 4 changed an MD of one of the advisory companies. That MD has suddenly now become the head of sustainability, and I like that, because he's focused on the business. Now he's focused on the business of being sustainable. And that sends a real positive message. There's probably not enough investment as yet, but people are looking at it, whether it's a joint role. I certainly know that that's been impacted in my industry verticals. People are looking at it. And the nice thing is the SDGs is a start point. And it's like, how do you operate, and what is your employees' kind of passion to change the world for good? And at least it gives you a vehicle to look at it and go, I like that, and I like that, and I like that. It might be digital poverty. It might be, some form of, exclusive, exclusivity in terms of, whether it's championing, the whole racism thing's huge at the moment. And I just think that it's a, thank goodness that they're there. That's the first point. And plenty of people though have been doing it, but they've been in a minority, and now everyone needs to kind of look at it. And it is hard. I know it's hard from my point of view. You're so focused on the business. Everyone normally is, well, there's going to be tons of redundancies being made now. There's the announcements, and companies in retail collapsing is pretty tragic. But everyone's sort of under-resourced and doing 3 jobs into one. And I know these things, but actually what I'm seeing is more and more people have a title around sustainability, and that might be saving paper cups around coffee, but fine, at least you're doing something for the environment. And what was great with Sky News back in the day, and this seems that years ago now, was they filled their studio full of plastic, the bottles, and with the oceans. And that really started, for me, that was such a physical, visible demonstration of how bad we've been as human beings and destroying our planet. And it was just such an easy physical demonstration. And simple measures could be put in, and companies are showing that now, but also showing it and measuring it. I think that's really important. And people buy off you for those reasons. And it's not marketing bull. It's it really does have an importance in how people are perceived and how people are procuring. So yeah, the SDGs have been, a breath of fresh air. Now it's just everything needs to grow at a pace and the cadence to kind of really, and we're innovative in that we're providing these metrics. Not many people are providing metrics. They're saying, all these things. So, and there's people that are assessing different companies and different star ratings, and then you'll sort of say, well, that's skewed in this regard. Doesn't matter. They're supporting goals and they're trying the best. And as long as we start to communicate, and what's interesting in the IT world is so focused on you that actually now there's going to be summits around sustainability in this, and the vendors manufacturers have run away from it because they don't want to show you how bad it is environmentally of how they manufactured, but now they're coming to the fore. Now they have to. We're kind of enforcing the agenda. So really, SDG has been hugely positive.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think the beginning there, I mean, the visual aspect, it seems like a small thing, but it's really big because, I think in the past, it's been very hard for people to understand. And, I've mentioned other indicators before. You have companies doing some of the right things, but that will be backed up by just the spreadsheet. And, communicating that with the outside world has not been good. And I think the SDGs are a great communication tool for what's being done for good change. So
I agree.
We're drawing to the end, so maybe a couple of quick rugby questions before we Diane will ask you about. Were you in Japan actually? I didn't check. Were you up there for the World Cup?
Out, yeah, I had 10 amazing days in Japan. It was the first World Cup I hadn't commentated on since I retired.
Yeah.
But I went out literally as an ambassador to the government, to the Japanese government, mainly around hosting Olympics 2020, Tokyo 2020, and of course obviously that's been pushed back. But it was I properly, normally on rugby tour you go hotel and blah blah, but I properly, I mean literally from the moment I woke up to the moment I hit the pillow, to sleep, I was on it doing incredible, like first class experiences of the proper Japan, and it was off the scale.
Awesome.
Off the scale. What an amazing culture, people, country, incredible. And they're resilient. They are resilient people. So, COVID would have hit them hard, but they were probably more prepared than anyone.
Yeah, I didn't go. I'd love to have gone. Obviously, it's local to me here in terms of, a World Cup. But I was in the UK actually when we played New Zealand. I then came back to my little hometown to watch the final, surrounded by Australians and South Africans. But I imagine, I was nervous about that final because of what an amazing performance that team put in that semi-final. I mean, it was just something I hadn't seen. I don't know how you felt about it. And, I'm sure that you had massive empathy because, teams going into such a big event like that. But, from your view, what, is it just that South Africa came in with a game plan based on being able to see England play their best game the week before? And, it's not an easy question to answer. There's probably a million different reasons, but I'd love to understand your perception of how that final went and how difficult it was. And yeah, I mean, South Africa are unbelievable, really, because we looked so strong.
Yeah, I think so. They're massively proud of their performance in the semi-final against New Zealand, and then sort of following those days, my feeling was how Eddie had got that right and got so many things right during the World Cup and selection and tactics. I was really confident against South Africa, to be fair, but then as it started, literally the first kick-off to the first scrum, obviously Kyle going down injured, I could just see the writing on the wall, and it's horrific when you're in that position so early on that you're thinking, how am I going to win this game? So we had that in 2007. What I would say is probably those guys in 2019 probably would have been the South Africa in 2007. So that to me is a compliment to them. Unfortunately for them, the terminology that's been used they played their final in the semi-final against New Zealand, and in 2003 one of the routes to beating South Africa in the pool game was that we would get what we thought was an easier journey to the final, and you're sort of missing New Zealand. So Australia played New Zealand in the semi-final there and beat them, and sort of did they pay their final in the semi-final, and then we beat them in the final. So I think there's an element of that, because New Zealand are the best team in the world. They beat South Africa in the pool game. South Africa were the first rugby nation to win the World Cup by losing a game. And that's
right. Yeah, I
happened
remember that.
before.
Yeah.
But the overriding kind of feeling I had was I knew straight away in that final tactics were wrong, and that you never know how it's going to pan out. You plan all of this, you meticulously visualizing it, and then the kickoff happens, first hits. You kind of never know how it's going to go. And had we kept playing for another hour, would we have won? I don't think so, with the tactics that we were playing. Now, what tactics? Come on then, Andrew. What tactics were going to win that game, right? I'm not the expert. I don't know, but I just know it was wrong. Similarly, I think we sort of had the right tactics in 2007. We just weren't good enough to get it over the line. Literally, the line being the cruel part to that result, which was it a foot in touch, wasn't it? It's kind of written in the annals. It was in touch, and it's kind of game over. We didn't win, but that's the difference between the elite level and it's so quick as well to prepare for that, the biggest game of your life. I mean, that's the other sort of tragedy for us as sports people, is that literally it's this small window. You train all your life for this moment, and it's a small window. You win the semi-final, you're euphoric. You've got another final. You've only got 6 days to really properly prepare, get it right to win that, and only you will be remembered if you win it, not lose it. So it's such a tough place to be. But then latterly in life, you think, what a great experience. Now I'm in business. The parallels for business are huge, but they just got it wrong. And it was, not for the lack of endeavour and heart and everything. All the ex-players, especially the World Cup winners, were so proud of people. People would joke, oh, you're glad that they lost, so you're still one of the only 31 players that got there, and it's rubbish, because I wanted that group. They deserved it. They really did deserve it for everything they did. They were great ambassadors on and off the pitch. I witnessed it out in Japan. I stayed in the same hotel as them. Great ambassadors. They did everything right. They brought massive pride to English rugby, where we were hurt in 2015. We hosted the best World Cup at the time. It really was genuinely the best. I commentated on it, and yet we couldn't deliver on the pitch, and it was tragic. That will hurt the players more than losing a World Cup final, right?
I flew back for that one, 2015. But yeah, with you, I think they're an awesome team, and I think neutral supporters felt it was interesting, the feeling after that game as a supporter in the pub. It was neutral supporters felt going into the game we should have won, but no one felt bad that South Africa did win, because it's just one of those games. It was like the Kiwi game, everyone was like so impressed by the performance. So I think that was the great thing about this World Cup is, as it went through, people that were winning games were really, there was very few, there was a little bit of controversy, but I didn't feel dissatisfied, If it had been taken away because we were the better team on the day, I would have been. But I think, like you say, if it had gone another hour, probably no different.
And everyone was kind of the story, the narrative behind it for the country was massive. And I've known players in that squad, and I was absolutely delighted for South Africa and what it does and is doing for the nation, and it is amazing. But that isn't the reason that they won it. It is down to, on the day, tactics, getting it right. And it was the same for us in 2007. Our discipline was poor. We gave them too many penalties to chip away ahead at us. And we thought we had the right tactics, but again, we'd run out of steam by the end of that. The squad was, some of the guys were injured. We didn't have a full team, and all these things happen, right? But South Africa got it right, nailed it, and with losing against New Zealand, that has never happened before. So you thought England would do it, having won all the games, and also the typhoon didn't help, because it would have been nice to have played France and beaten France, which would have carried even more confidence. But who knows? It's a strange one, but you just got to get to the final, and that's why I was proud of my sort of England time of that sort of, you'd say 8 years from 2000 to 2007-8, you know, that 2 World Cup finals is not bad.
Definitely. I was at the 2007 one, actually. I was at that in Paris.
Yeah.
So I remember that well. Look, you know, really appreciate, we're kind of at the end of the time, and you've given more than I expected. So really massive appreciation, Andy. We didn't touch on any of the charity stuff you do. I've got some notes down here, but I think as just as a sign off, you know, where can people find out more about you? Obviously, you know, involved with the School of Hard Knocks and the Wooden Spoon charity. You've got your business, you do a lot of stuff. I mean, if people want to learn more about you, you know, where can they find out, you know, what you do, as opposed to the rugby and the business and everything else?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to, and I've got a job to do really with, I like LinkedIn because the business context to it. Got to be careful not to sell on there. And, you know, it's not, I don't want it to be a recruitment tool either. Yeah, I think it's a good business education platform. And so I've got a job to do on that really, in terms of video and content, educating on that. So I sort of use that mostly as kind of messaging, B2B. So that would be where it was. And I use that, obviously, that as a vehicle for the charity stuff that we do. So School of Hard Knocks, Wooden Spoon. I'm now a trustee to a charity that's just started up, which is Phones for Patients. You know, we have 21,700 care homes in the UK, staggeringly. And, you know, through this COVID time, you know, loved ones have not been able to speak to family members in these care homes physically, but also technology-wise, they haven't either. So Phones for Patients was set up for companies to donate some of their end-of-life phones, so that we could reuse them in the care home. So at least then there's some technology and people can see. So that was a nice one to start up. And there's tons of other things that we want to do around digital poverty as well, for vulnerable, disadvantaged children that, you know, staggeringly, I'll leave you with this one, that half the world's population doesn't have access to the internet at the moment, which is, it just blows your mind. So
the other half's on TikTok.
Yeah.
It is,
Yeah.
like, it is insane.
I tried to get my children to explain what it is, and they still can't do it, right? Yeah, so LinkedIn's probably the best place. Right. I'll try and be not as silly and be more educational on that.
Cool. Well, I'll write up a little bio, obviously, with the podcast for our listeners, and I'll put your LinkedIn profile on there if that's cool. If anyone wants to learn more and get in touch. But yeah, really, really great to chat, and thanks for sharing so much. And yeah, I hope everything's good and safe with family and everything else in the UK.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Cool. Cheers, mate.
Cheers.